Katelyn Jarvis, a traveler I just met for the first time virtually last week from Cincinnati. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
All right, born and raised in Cincinnati, and somehow in January you were in Syria. Tell us about it. There's been intense interest in our group about this country. Some people have said there's too many trip reports, but I love all of them. Everybody has a different experience, and particularly you got to see Palmyra and Bosra in the south, which a lot of people have not visited. So let's focus there.
Yeah, so I went with eight other Americans, and we did the Beirut land crossing border and drove into Damascus and also went to Basra. That was
Mhm.
incredible. It mainly survived because they had built like a wall around it.
And what is it for those that unfamiliar?
Oh, sorry. It's a Roman amphitheater. It's huge.
Hmm. Hmm.
But yeah, that was incredible. I think it's always amazing when you go to these like non-touristy countries and you get these ancient ruins all to yourself. Yeah, so from Basra, we went back to Damascus and toured Damascus. Uh, I love Damascus. I, yeah, it might be, Syria is probably my favorite country now, and
Hmm.
Damascus is one of my favorite cities. Then we went to Homs and we stayed like in the town right next to Crac de Chevalier. And
Mhm.
then we went up to Palmyra.
Hmm.
We got approved for the permit because we had like a colonel drive with us.
Oh
And
wow.
he was a really funny guy. He was awesome. I don't know if anybody's ever used uh Gaida or Fadi as their guide, but they were great.
They
They
they were mine. She's my fixer, and Fadi's my guide. So
Yeah.
he's
They were
fantastic.
awesome.
Yeah.
We had like a whole crew leading us. So we had the colonel to like
Uh-huh.
get us through the checkpoints, and then we had,
Uh-huh.
oh, that's another thing, the checkpoints in Syria. I feel like I have
Hmm.
to talk about this. So there was some of us in the group that we decided that we were creating a website called the ratethecheckpoint.com, sort of like rate my professor. And because we thought the Syrian guards were kind of hot. So, so anywho, yeah. Uh, the colonel got us through all those checkpoints, and then we made it up to Palmyra, and that was incredible. It was kind of surreal because I had like looked at pictures of it before
Mhm.
ISIS had blown it up, specifically like the Temple of Bel,
Mhm.
and I mean it was still incredible, but it was also sad how they just
Mhm.
blew it up. Um, but also it was amazing like how well preserved a lot of it was. One of the theaters, it was like a smaller Roman amphitheater,
Mhm.
and it was beautiful, and they had tried to blow it up, but they didn't succeed, which I thought that speaks to how well it was built by the Romans, and that it could survive explosives.
Hmm. Fantastic. Yeah, I had a limited time for my visit and did not. I for trivial reasons I had to get back for a business commitment, so I did not make it out to Palmyra. I couldn't wait for the permit and didn't have time to get to the south. But I certainly felt that intoxicating energy of wanting to go back. And I know you travel with a mission. Let's talk about peace stamps and what you're hoping to achieve with that.
Yeah, so I started Peace Stamps in 2017 when I started this endeavor to go to every country in the world. And the mission of Peace Stamps is to make the world a little more culturally understanding, empathetic to different cultures. And I do that through volunteer projects in as many countries as possible with the end goal of um, taking people on mission trips to
Mm.
these countries. And my goal is for my first mission trip to is to go to Syria. I have like a special place in my heart for Syrian people. I love them.
Hmm. And certainly the current health situation globally is putting a crimp on your plans. And I know you had a incredible trip starting in May that you had planned, and so clearly you're not going to be able to take it, but we can all benefit from all the planning work you did, that you can share and we can benefit. So talk about the countries and how you even began to piece together this itinerary.
Yeah, so my planning is just like very unorganized. I'm like, I want to go here. And then I just like start Googling the flight patterns to see where I can get that I haven't been. So I have a friend who lives in Pakistan, and he was going to show me around the country. So I was going to start off in Pakistan and then go to Afghanistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Bhutan, Bangladesh. I might be getting this out of order. Uh, Myanmar, Cambodia, Laos. Yeah. And then like yeah, and then fly home is you can find like pretty cheap flights from the Asian countries as opposed to the Middle Eastern countries. But yeah, um, I had like 10 to 12 drafts of that plan, and then coronavirus hit.
What's your plan tool? Is it is it a spreadsheet? Is it a document? Is it a
Yeah,
website?
spreadsheets.
So I guess that leads to you have a finance background, right?
Yeah, I'm an
That's the
Excel
preferred tool.
nerd. Love Excel.
So tell everyone how many UN countries and how you've managed to do it so young and what your professional endeavors. You've got 3 jobs, so let's hear about them.
Yeah. So, okay, so I did a lot of my traveling from 2017 to like end of 2018. It like a 18-month span. And
Mm,
most of that traveling was funded from my life savings that I had earned through working in banking for 5 years. And then I ran out of money and I came home. And at that point, I think I was at 117 countries. So now my travels are funded through my 3 jobs. My first one is I work in finance for my family's investment firm. Um, I bartend and then I ref lacrosse. So yeah, but coronavirus has kind of messed all that up. I know it's messed up everybody's plans, but
well, it's something I was thinking lacrosse. I grew up in Minnesota, so there's some lacrosse playing there, and I think for those that have not experienced it, it's got to be about the most hazardous organized sport that's in America, except maybe American football with the head injuries. So how
yeah.
hard is that ball? How fast does it move? And how much does a ref get hit in the average match?
So, well, I'll start off with the ball. The ball does hurt. My brother and I my brother played men's lacrosse. So we would just throw in the backyard and we would play this game where we would like throw it as hard as we could at each other and like but we had to catch it obviously. And one time he threw this like riser ball and it hit me right in the eye and my eye was swelled
Mm,
shut for like a week. Um,
mm.
but I wasn't wearing my goggles, so I guess it was my fault. But
And
refing,
how fast can the ball go?
I don't know. There's men who can shoot 100 miles an hour.
Oh,
I
wow.
probably I couldn't shoot that hard. Maybe like 40 miles an hour. That's just a guess.
Mm,
Um, and then when I played lacrosse in college, I would come home with bruises like up and down my arms just from like getting hit with sticks, even though it's a non-contact sport. Reffing, I've never,
incidental contact, right?
yeah. I mean, if you give girls sticks, they're gonna hit each other with them. uh, and then I've never,
What's the age difference between you and your brother? Because my brother's 9 years older, and he would let me do the thing of hitting those, like in the winter in our driveway, not the hockey puck because we're on the driveway, but the hockey balls.
Yeah,
and I hated him as hard as I could, but he didn't reciprocate. So, is he a younger brother, older brother? How many years?
he's younger. Yeah, I'm 27 and he's 25, I think. Yeah.
What does he think of your travels, and have you traveled with him?
I have traveled with him. So I don't know. He's not like a very uh like outward spoken person. So like if he was excited for me, he would never tell me.
And does
He
he lets you be in charge? You're the traveler and the big sister, or he wants
Yeah,
to do his own thing? Yeah.
yeah. I like to claim that I've made my family travel internationally more. I've been to all 50 states, and my mom's been to all 50 states twice.
Oh, wow, oh,
She took
incredible.
my Yeah, so like her second time was when she took my brother and I and my dad to all 50 states. Um, but we hadn't really done a whole lot of international trips. Uh, so
Hmm.
Christmas of 2017, they met me in South Africa, and we did South Africa, Zimbabwe, Botswana, and Lesotho together. And
Hmm.
then, so now it's just kind of become a thing that we travel every Christmas. Last Christmas, when I did Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Lebanon, and then I met them in London, and we did London, Dublin, and Reykjavik.
Hmm. Oh,
And
wow.
then this past Christmas, we did Buenos Aires, Falkland Islands, Antarctica, Punta Arenas, and Valparaiso, Chile. So now
Awesome.
they've been to 5 continents out of the 7.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And
I,
they've bought into your travel program. And when we
yeah.
started talking about siblings giving each other black eyes, I realized recently that my brother and I, because he is much older, so he already had a family by the time I started actively traveling. So other than visiting him in a family context, I've realized and regretted and tried to find a way to travel with him, and hope I can put that together, and hope he can tolerate that I'll insist on being in charge even though I'm the little brother, because
Right.
I get very determined on my itineraries, and but he's wonderful and easygoing, so I think it'll be a fit if we get that chance soon.
That would be fun. Brother
There's a question from Imran. You've traveled to most of the countries in the world. Can you rate the top 3 countries you have been to and why? So I'm guessing Syria might be one, but let's hear your top 3 so far.
Yeah, so I love Syria, I love Lebanon, and then I love Tunisia.
Ah,
Oh,
so
and
first, Syrian or Lebanese food. You can't say they're both good. They're equal. You can't say they're both equally good. So which is your pick?
I
You'll
think
offend a lot of people no matter what you do.
I'm gonna have to go with Lebanon. Like, I love their food. I don't really think they're a whole lot different, but I'm
You're
gonna go
offending
with
people no
Lebanon.
matter what. That's the unfairness of the question. They're wonderful. They're both wonderful.
Right.
Absolutely. But Tunisia, you picked one of my favorites. So you won't have to sell on me, but for the audience, why Tunisia popped up on your list?
Well, for one, it's beautiful. Also, the food is good. I
What
love,
kind of beauty? What kind of beauty?
so it reminded me of Greece a lot. Like when I went to City Busaid, uh, I felt like I was in Greece, like the white, is it stucco? White stucco buildings with like the
Hmm.
crystal clear blue water. And I just, I don't know what it is about sitting on the ground on a carpet with pillows drinking tea, but I love it.
Hmm.
And I know you can do that in a lot of countries, but I just remember being in the Medina of Tunis, and there was this one tea house that I went to, and it was so fun. Like just sitting there drinking your tea. Did I have a guide? I don't, I don't think I had a guide.
Hmm.
Oh no, I had an Airbnb, and my Airbnb supplied me with a person to show me around. So yeah,
Fantastic.
but yeah, I
Yeah,
loved.
it's certainly like you mentioned the ancient sites in in Syria and that as well, in North Africa. It's the climate and has preserved so much of what in Roman times and before that Greek times, the Mediterranean, all sides of it were all much more connected than we're used to thinking about them these
Right.
days. It's Tunis Carthage International Airport for a reason, and you're right in Carthage there. So I will second your vote for everybody to try to give Tunisia a chance if they can. How about of the countries you haven't visited? What are the few that you're most excited about coming up?
Uh, Well, I'm very excited about Madagascar. I can't wait to go there. I also am very excited about the Pacific Islands. I don't know. I don't really have like specific Pacific Islands I'm excited about, but I'm just excited to go there. Uh, I have a lot of Africa left. So there's a like I'm excited about Namibia. Uh,
Mhm.
I wanted, yeah, I think those are the ones I'm most excited about right now. I'm also very excited about Pakistan and Afghanistan. I
Mhm.
kind of have a soft spot for the Middle East. I
Mhm.
love the culture of the Middle East.
Mhm. Fantastic. And we're pulled right back to Tunisia. No complaints for me on that. Caitlin, did you see any of the Star Wars sites in Tunisia?
I did not. I'm not like a huge Star Wars fan, so if I
Oh,
had seen them, actually,
oh,
one of my quarantine
never
activities,
mind. Go ahead.
one of my quarantine activities was going to be to watch the Star Wars movies. So maybe after I watch those, I'll seek out some Star Wars sites in Tunisia.
Okay, that's generational, but yeah, that's why Star Wars. That's why Tunisia is one of the pillars of why it's so central to my love for it. It's
Oh,
incredible to see sites out of the movies and in the deserts and so well preserved. Somebody else said, why didn't you vote for Brazil? Which
I I do love Brazil. It's so hard. Like my top 10 list is like it's like 30 countries because it's like I have a couple tied for first, a couple tied for second. Like
mhm,
I feel like I haven't really had a whole lot of bad experiences, so there's just a lot of places that I love.
hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic to hear. Your website journey with jarv.com does have a few hiccups. I think that's fun. It says adventures do not always go as planned, and here are some of the hiccups along my journey. And I like that attitude of it's not just the perfect curated Instagram photo of the coffee cup and perfectly positioned in the morning with the right foam and
Right.
all of that. You're willing to share. So let's pick one little hiccup and how you learn from it.
Yeah, well, I'll tell my Central African Republic story. So I gained a stalker kind of in Bangui. Uh, he posed as my tour guide because he had a sign that said my name on it, and like somebody else had handled booking my tour guide for me from
Mm,
another country. I won't say any names, but yeah.
mm,
Uh, so, anywho, this guy, he started driving me and he asked me for like $250. He's like, you owe me for the car, and then we also need gas to get to, I can never say it right, Bowley Falls,
okay.
2 hours outside of Bangui. Um, and I had prepaid for the tour, so I told him that I wasn't going to give him any money. And then he took me back to the hotel to talk to the person who booked the tour guide, and he's like, no, you don't owe him any money. uh, and then like my real tour guide showed up. It was a confusing situation. She sorted everything out but told me that I should go with him to see the falls. I said no, luckily, because it turns out the misunderstanding was not resolved. And
Mm,
like he kept showing up at different places that I was at and telling me that I owed him money, but I
oh gosh.
and like I don't even know how he knew where I was. It was so creepy. And then he tried to break into my hotel room like 5 or 6 times, And then one time it was when the power had gone out and I was like in the shower and it's pitch black and I just hear this guy like trying to get into my room. And then another time I went down to have dinner and he was like standing at the front desk of the hotel talking to the guards, and I'm like, why are they letting him in here?
Mm.
And then the last two times were the most scary. He came to my hotel room the morning I was leaving Central African Republic, and he tried to drive me to the airport, but then my real tour guide saved me again, and he was sprinting down the road of Bangkok, chasing after my car. And then we got to the airport and he beat us to the airport and he started running after the car again. And I'm sure most of you know you can't get into some airports without like showing that you actually have a flight. So I showed them proof of my flight. They let me into the airport, but somehow this guy got past security and then he tapped me on the shoulder while I was waiting in the check-in line. And I just start like bawling hysterically. I'm like, get this man away from me. Like, I don't know him. He's stalking me. Like, and then the airport police took us to the airport prison and told me to go into a cell with him. And I'm like, no, I'm not going into a cell. Then what? And then,
Sorry to laugh, but the way you're telling it,
like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, that's the second time I've been taken to airport prison, and they told me to go into the cell with the guy who committed the crime against me. I'm like, what? No.
I can't let that pass. Second time. I hope you're not collecting them. I hope you don't have future ones. But what's the other one?
So the first time I went to airport prison was in Bolivia. The immigration officer stole my cell phone, and then obviously he got angry when I accused a government official of theft. So the airport police were like, hey, you guys need to both go into the cell while we sort this out. And once again, I'm like, no, what? He's the one who stole it. So instead, they changed him to a desk and made me sit at the desk with him sitting right across from me. And he literally just stared me in the eyes for like 2 hours, and it was so uncomfortable. But yeah, I escaped both situations. Learned that I can't get too comfortable just because something bad hasn't happened in a while. I need to stay on my game.
I think it's easy to fall into complacency, and it's like if nothing happened, it means it's safe, but it doesn't really mean that. It just means nothing happened. Right. And well, it's
I always travel. Like I have a St. Christopher necklace, and I travel. I've been wearing it for like 3 years, so I say that that's my guardian angel.
Well, fantastic. And you mentioned Saudi Arabia in there, and the time I went some years ago, I almost enjoyed. My wife was with me, and I almost enjoyed hearing her stories and observations about it more than my own experience of the trip. Just for me, it just seemed like another place, but her reactions were so distinct. So I'm curious where you went, what you thought, what you did.
So I went in December 2018 with that huge EPS meetup for the Grand Prix. No, what's it called? It
was like the E1 or something. And,
Formula E. Yeah, the Formula E. Yeah. So I feel like they were kind of just putting on a show for the tourists because I didn't really experience anything that, I mean, like I was treated with nothing but kindness and respect. I fully expected to have to wear a hijab, but I didn't have to cover my head at all. Yeah, I had an incredible experience there. That I kind of want to do like an EPS meetup after quarantine is over, like at the scale of Saudi Arabia. I think that would be so fun.
Oh, no, I certainly missed out. So where should it be? Where do you think should be the big meetup? Maybe this fall or next in the winter?
No, I really want to go to Namibia, so maybe we should all go there.
Oh, that's fantastic. Great for a road trip. Great to find a spot and hang out. Some of the most accessible safaris, and
Yeah,
suitably far for many of us in EPS to feel like we've gotten out. So we'll see what we can put together for that. That would be tremendous fun.
yeah,
Uh,
I think
yeah.
so.
What does I'm wondering if all travelers should be a bartender at some time in their life. Uh, how does that teach you to read people? And is it a skill that's applied to your travel?
I mean, it definitely teaches you how to like de-escalate situations. Is like it comes with the territory of bartending that like drunk people can be a little aggressive and you have to like talk them down. So
Mm.
it could apply to traveling. Like I feel like I handled the Central African Republic situation like pretty well, and maybe that could be attributed to bartending.
Ah. So if you're a customer, I'm not a regular bar goer, but I feel like there's some social expectation to, people want to look like a regular or want to look like they know what they're doing. So how do
Yeah.
you how do you walk into a bar and look like you belong?
Um, don't ask me to make something that tastes good. Just like tell me what you want. People come in and they're like, so I really don't know what I want. Will you just make me whatever? I'm like, there are literally thousands of drink combinations. You want me to just make you something right now? What? I'm like, okay, you're getting a straight shot of tequila. So yeah, just have an idea of what you want.
And when you travel, do you partake in nightlife, visit bars, check it out, either professional curiosity or social?
So when I'm by myself, I have a rule that like I don't stay out after dark, and then I try one beer in every country that I can. So I don't like
Mm.
to like get drunk. Although I feel like in Syria, our Fadi encouraged us to drink. He was like, "Okay, guys, you have to be up at 5 a.m. tomorrow, but I got a DJ tonight, and we're gonna stay up until 1 a.m." I'm like, "No, buddy, no, I can't do this." uh,
No, I mean, I love Fadi, but he can, in the middle of the car on the bumpiest road, he can fall asleep in 3 seconds and
yeah,
get a recharging nap and be up in energy. So I could see why he would arrange something to 1 a.m. and back up at 5 and still make it.
yeah. Yeah, it was there was one it was the last night. He had the DJ, and we bought like a bunch of alcohol at duty free, and we just sat in the bar and drank, and then we had to be up the next morning to go to Crack de Chevalier, and that was
Mm.
a rough day. But the Syrians like to party. It seems. I'm not
Oh
sure.
yeah, absolutely. I realized very quickly that I would never be able to keep up with
Yeah.
that bit of hard living. So I had my meals and stayed chill. I like to get a haircut and a shave in countries. So that's
Oh, really? That's
I
a
guess
cool
that's my
thing
nightlife.
to do. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a way to get people to open up. I mean, they're holding a razor blade over your neck. There's some signaling that I trust them at that point. That they're willing to think he's not some arrogant American if he's going to put his bare neck out under his blade. So
Right.
that's been my approach. But yeah, I've sometimes I give talks to audiences that are starting to travel, and my rule sounds a bit similar to yours of especially solo travel. Don't the 3 Ds. Don't be drunk, drugged, or debauched, and especially if you're alone, you don't know the legal system, you don't know how to access help. You can do a lot of that in your home country where it may not be as fun or not as permissive, but there's a lot more safety available to you than going somewhere else and going nuts.
Right.
Somalia. Mogadishu. Oh my goodness, I haven't even asked. So you didn't just go to Somaliland. Some say Somaliland is good enough, and it's a fantastic destination on its own. But that's very different than going into Mogadishu. And let's hear about that.
Yeah, so Mogadishu was it was beautiful in its own way. Like you could just tell how beautiful it used to be,
Mhm.
like the Italian architecture and just like the coastline and how blue the water was. Um, but so one of my favorite stories happened there. I stayed at the Jazeera Palace Hotel, and there was a parliament member eating breakfast a couple tables away from me, and he came up to me and asked me why I was in Mogadishu. And when I told him tourism, he didn't really believe me, obviously. So he ended up taking me to the Ministry of Tourism and the Ministry of Education, and I got to talk to all those government officials about like peace
Mm.
stamps and like how I'm trying to go to every country. And it turns out that the Ministry of Tourism shares a campus with the Somali National Television and Radio. So they ended up
Mm.
doing a special on me and how like tourism's returning to Somalia. And I was like, I think I might be the only tourist here right now, but
So if you're returning, you're there.
yeah, but they took me to the Peace Park where you're not allowed to have any weapons, and it was
Mm.
really nice. There was a I it was like the Somali version of McDonald's. There's some teenage boys and they bought me chicken nuggets like as a like a peace offering. They were like, "Here's these chicken nuggets." It was so cute.
Oh wow, I'm not familiar with that. So the Peace Park it's a local effort by the community, or how does that
Yeah,
work?
I'm not really sure how it began, but it's just a piece of land in the middle of Mogadishu that's green and clean and like I had 7 armed guards, but none of them were allowed in the peace park. Um yeah, it was really nice. Like we shot a lot of the interview just walking through the park, and like there's like young couples enjoying. It was kind of like picturesque. It's just people sitting in the park, and yeah.
Oh, that's incredible. And I visited once. I hope to go back. I missed the Peace Park. My trip was cut a bit short by a day because of flight delays, mechanical on the way in. So I saw much less than I wanted to. I'd like to see Puntland. Another one in that neighborhood that I know is a favorite of yours is Ethiopia.
Yeah. I loved Ethiopia. It there wasn't, I mean, there's a lot to do in Ethiopia, but it wasn't so much the country as opposed to the people. The people
Mhm.
there were some of the kindest people I've ever met.
Mm.
So I went to Harar, like the
Mhm.
Muslim city, and
Mhm.
we were walking through the markets, and everyone that I walked by stopped, like shook my hand, said
Mm.
hello, like they would take pictures. There was a huge I, people always say it different. Chat or cat, like the leaves that everybody
Mhm.
chews that gets you high.
Mhm.
There's a
Mhm.
huge market for that, and they kept like handing me bushels of these leaves, and they just thought it was hilarious that I was like holding all of their drugs. But yeah.
Stimulant, perhaps.
And then,
Oh,
I was there
mm,
at the end of Ramadan. So they had a huge festival in the city, and it literally went all night. People just kept like there's 2 stages on either side of the city, and people just kept walking back and forth on the main road, listening to music, dancing. I got to play the drums with them. And then I fed a hyena from my mouth. That was fun.
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
It,
And
you never
uh,
feel so vulnerable until you have like this animal that can rip your face off, like your face.
yeah, you have animal encounters as well. You had the good fortune and timing to visit Baringa for the the gorillas as well as the famous lava sea on the top of the volcano. So is that, for those that have been dreaming of it, is it absolutely worthwhile? Go if you have the chance.
Yeah, it's in my top 5 experiences ever in traveling. I kind of like did a treat yourself, and I booked it for my birthday. So like on my birthday, I was walking through the jungle of the DRC, tracking the Baraka family. And that family was inhabituated when I
Mhm.
was tracking them. So
Mm.
there was like one scary moment when Baraka, like the chief of this clan, he like charged straight at me, and my guides were like, get on your knees, get on your knees. So I like got down on my knees, and he stopped charging, and I just saw my life flash before my eyes. But it was
That's pretty incredible, though. That, I mean, if somebody shouts "Get on your knees" in that situation, I wouldn't think that's the instinct you were having at that moment.
Well,
So,
they had warned me. They had told me before that if they do charge at you, you have to be submissive and like get on your knees, don't look at them, like look at the ground. So that's what
mm.
I did, and he stopped. So clearly it works.
Oh wow,
But
yeah.
the juvenile gorillas were my favorite. They were so curious. They kept coming up to me, and I had to back away because obviously you can't touch them. But they were just so curious and adorable, and they would like peek out behind logs, and it it's such a cool experience. I want to like take people with me to do it.
Yeah, I think people dream of the safari, the lions, and all that, but if you could only have one animal encounter, that's the one I would pick as well. The mountain gorilla is just fantastic.
Yeah.
Now,
And that
speaking of primates, you're visiting, so a lot of people, especially at, say, your age in the 20s, it seems like they're all solo travel or they're all group travel or they always have the same companion. It seems like, or family, it seems like you do all of that. And I'm curious, is it based on the trip? Is it the mood, the timing? How do you choose how you'll have which travel style?
I'm like pretty flexible when I travel. So whenever I plan a trip, I'm like I post on Facebook, hey, this is where I'm going. If anybody wants to come, like send me a message and I'll include you in the plans. Um,
Mm,
yeah, so like I have one of my good friends in Cincinnati. She likes to travel, so she's done. Um, we did we've done Peru, Malta, and Turkey together.
mhm,
Then my parents. Did I already talk about my parents and how they've been to 5 of the 7 continents? Was that
mhm, yeah.
okay? Yeah. So then I go with my parents. Uh, my trip to Pakistan, Afghanistan at the end of May, I was going to go with Layla uh, Neiman,
Mhm.
and I think we're still going to go if we can. um, yeah. So yeah,
That's gonna be something to untangle and figure out which country will let you in where and how these all these
right.
restrictions.
Well, and
Uh,
also I'm working on my master's right now, and I start like I end April 24th, and then I go back August 24th. So like it was perfect that 4 month span, but now I don't know what's gonna happen.
yeah, I mean, I was in that sense lucky that I didn't have a lot of plans in place. I was focusing on some business commitments these coming months, so I haven't had that big waiting period of seeing what's going to be possible, what's going to be responsible. One thing about your parents is I understand your mother's been to every U.S. state twice. You've been to every U.S. state at least once, and certainly when I was so focused on international travel, I didn't pay much attention to all the travel riches of the United States. You're based in the middle. You've got a lot of directions you can easily go. So, what are some of the highlights for Americans that have ignored it, or international visitors that haven't begun?
Well, I love out west. Um, we as kids we would like load up in my mom's Yukon and we would just like drive all through the West. So I remember loving the Badlands in South Dakota. It's a
Mm,
state park.
yeah.
It, I like to like I'm not a rock climber, but I like to climb on stuff,
Mhm.
if that makes sense. There's like a lot of fun rocks to climb on out there.
Okay.
Um, and then obviously there's like Yellowstone and the Grand Tetons and Yosemite. Those are all incredible national parks. The Grand Canyon. I really think that New Orleans is also a good city for people to check
Mm.
out if you're not from America or even if you are from America. Cincinnati. Cincinnati has its charm and it's not very expensive. And there's lots of hiking you can do, and there's good restaurants. Uh, yeah,
Expand on the hiking. What kind of scenery would we be seeing?
in Cincinnati.
Yeah. Mm,
So in Cincinnati, it's not, there's like, it's hilly. It's not, there's no
mhm,
mountains or anything,
mhm.
but it's nice. There's like nature trails and I mean, it's nothing like hiking out west, but it's quaint and calm and not crowded and cheap.
Yeah, as I said, I visited for the first time this past year, and then I saw the film. Is that Dark Waters? The
Yeah, with
about the
that one with George Clooney.
no, no, just the past year with oh God, I have to uh,
I
I'm
so
blanking on the actor's name, but it's based in a lot of the story is based in um, uh, Cincinnati in the through the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, and Mark Ruffalo, and um, about environmental damage, and he was his character is his real life story. He was based in Cincinnati, and he took on the DuPont Corporation, so it gave a good
okay.
feel for the progression of the decades of the city, and very very atmospheric.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't heard of it. I always like joke that I've seen a lot of the world, but I live under a rock, like a pop culture rock, because I'm
Yeah.
always working. So I never like, I'm always working or traveling. So I don't really get to watch like movies or Netflix or things like that.
Fine. There's plenty of time later if you want to. So
Yeah.
there was a few years where the only movies I'd see were on planes, but
Well, I always say that too. I'm like, if I want to watch a movie, I got to fly somewhere.
so a question: what do you think how the world will change for travelers post COVID? When do you think non-essential world travel will restart? You're hoping to go in late May, so you're optimistic.
Well, I haven't. I know I'm not going in late May.
Okay.
I've already accepted that. I'm hoping by the fall, but I have a feeling like Turkmenistan just like shut down immediately. I have a feeling it'll take a while for them to reopen.
Hmm.
Pakistan, I called their embassy and they said that coronavirus wasn't real. So hopefully they'll,
Tell it.
this was like early on in coronavirus, so
Okay. Yeah.
maybe their opinion changed now. But I'm hoping that they'll be more likely to open up. I have a feeling that a lot of my travel plans going forward for the next year or so will be based off of like who is open, and I haven't been there.
Yeah, and it's not just the country being open. I mean, we have a trip that was originally booked for my wife's birthday in June to Australia, connecting through Hong Kong. And even if it were safe, and even if Australia were welcoming people, and there's reports today of politicians talking about like they might not even be releasing travel within Australian states in that time frame. That we right now we wouldn't be able to transit Hong Kong either. So it's going to be quite a jigsaw puzzle to figure out what the connections will be, what the risks are, what responsible travel is. I missed
Right.
a friend in Anacortes, Washington, Layla. She wrote, "I used to also carry St. Christopher. Picked it up while traveling in Montana. Not Catholic at all. Need to get a new one." So, yeah.
I'm a I'm I'm confirmed Catholic, and I haven't been to church in a very long time, but I feel like this is just like a superstitious thing.
I think it's good. I would imagine most travelers have something that is always with them on the road, that whether it's superstitious or personal significance or religious.
Right.
Um, let's
Sometimes I
see.
feel like I have to have some sort of like guardian angel that's watching out for me because I feel like there has to have been some potentially more dangerous situations that I didn't even know were around me. Maybe in like Mogadishu or Syria or Libya, even.
All right. Oh, and Layla followed up. She said, "I'm so glad you pointed out that you and Layla Neiman are going to travel somewhere. What a concept! I can meet travel partners on the site to go to countries that I'm less comfortable going to alone. Fantastic idea. I know other sites do this, but I think folks in this group might match my travel style." And yeah, we have different meetup threads. We have a dedicated EPS meetup group for those of you that don't know that can join. And the reason it's a separate group in Facebook is that we don't want all of EPS to be meetup requests because those can be overwhelming. So we put them in that other group just to give more freedom for people to organize and post about trips and not feel like other people feel like they're just getting overwhelmed with these requests. So I can shout out for the EPS meetup group. It sounds like we've got a recommendation for traveling with Layla Neiman, and we hope we will be on the road again soon. Certainly, while traveling together. What's the trip I haven't asked about? I've learned as much as I can about your fascinating travels. I know I've missed stuff. The one that popped into your mind when I said that.
Probably Antarctica. Antarctica
Hmm.
was my seventh continent. I went there in December of last year
Hmm.
with my parents and my brother. Um, that was incredible. I always compare it to Alaska. Like if you've been to Alaska and seen the glaciers and the mountains, it's like that, but on like a lot of crack. Like it's incredible. Um, we went to Charlotte Harbor and I was looking out into the water and it was like looking out your kitchen window and seeing squirrels like run around your backyard. There was
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
hundreds of humpback whales and they just kept breaching the water and it was the one time I didn't have my camera with me. So I was like, I guess I just have to soak this in. This is one of the times where the universe is just telling me to like enjoy the moment. I don't have to document it. But it was incredible seeing these humpback whales just like flip out of the water, breach the water. It was amazing.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
enjoy the moment. You don't have to document it. I think that's a wonderful message from the universe and from Caitlin. Thank you for joining us tonight at the EPS self isolation, self quarantine happy hour.
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.